Today I will talk about sample size calculations for clinical trials. This is fourth lecture of my series of lectures on sample size calculations. This is my lecture outline. First I will talk about parallel study designs. Then I'll talk about crossover trials, and finally a brief about group sequential trials. Conducting a clinical trial with a placebo control group is unethical when an established standard treatment is available. Hence, most of the clinical trials assesses result of two different treatments known as experimental treatment and standard treatment. Standard treatment is already an established treatment which has been historically shown to be better than placebo. Trials can be three-arm trials with test group, reference group, and placebo group. It can be two-arm trials including only test group and reference group. Regulations on adequate and well-controlled studies describe the following four types of controlled trials for providing evidence of effectiveness, and these include placebo-controlled, no treatment as a control, active treatment as a control or active control, and dose-response relationship. Trials with active control. Three important reasons for conducting active control trials are assay sensitivity, ethics, and comparative evaluation. Assay sensitivity is a property of a clinical trial defined as the ability to distinguish an effective treatment from a less effective or ineffective treatment. It should be appropriately used in the context of non-inferiority trials. I'll talk about assay sensitivity in my present lecture when I'll talk about non-inferiority trials. It is unethical to use placebo as a control when established treatment with proven efficacy are available in the market. This we already know. Comparative evaluation. This is required to examine how test treatment, known as experimental treatment, compares with standard treatment, known as active treatment, available in the market. Standard treatment must be known to be effective in the population under study. In a trial comparing a new product with active comparator, the objective may be to demonstrate the superiority, non-inferiority, and the equivalence. So we have a historical data showing that the standard treatment or active treatment is better than the placebo, and we assess the experimental treatment and compare it with standard treatment. We can have two boundaries of minus delta and plus delta. I'll talk about detail of the boundaries later on in my present lecture. And the experimental treatment may be within the boundary, may be less than the boundary, or maybe more than the upper boundary. So we will see these kind of situations. Predefinition of a type of trial is must. Predefinition of a trial as superiority trial, equivalence trial, or non-inferiority trial is necessary for numerous reasons, including to ensure that equivalence and non-inferiority criteria are predefined, especially the margins, to ensure that comparative treatments, doses, patient populations, and endpoints are appropriate as given in this standard, to allow sample size estimate to be based on correct power calculations. I'll talk about sample size calculation in my present lecture. To ensure that the trial has sufficient sensitivity to achieve its objectives, and to permit appropriate analysis plans to be described in the protocol. If the objective of trial is switched from superiority to non-inferiority or vice versa, these aspects may lead to greater difficulty than the interpretation of significance test and confidence intervals. So, notation which I have used in my present lecture. So, in case of a parallel clinical trial, to assess the difference in experimental treatment and standard treatment, we denote mu E as the mean of experimental treatment and mu s as the mean of standard treatment. So, after the experiment or the trial, we calculate the difference between means and we also calculate the confidence interval of this mean difference. So, we have this mean difference and this is the confidence interval. So, wherever in my present lecture this kind of figure is seen, it is depicting a mean difference and confidence interval of mean difference with lower limit of confidence interval on left side and upper limit of confidence interval on right side. So first of all, sample size estimation for superiority trials. Objective of superiority trial is to demonstrate that a new treatment or intervention is more effective than an active comparator or a placebo. It may be statistically superior or clinically superior. So this is about the hypothesis of the superiority design. This is assuming that the larger value is better. So if the larger value is better, it means that let us assume that the experimental is superior. So mean of superior is more than mean of the standard, or mean of experimental is more than mean of standard. So this difference is positive. And let the delta is known as margin of clinical significance. So this is delta. So clinical superiority is defined as mean of experimental minus mean of standard is more than delta. So this is delta. So this mean difference should be more than delta. So this lower limit of confidence interval should be more than this delta. This is the clinical superiority. If the lower limit of the confidence interval is more than 0, then it is a statistical superiority. If it is more than 0, it is statistical superiority. So this is, in this situation, the confidence interval includes 0, so the superiority is not demonstrated. Here the confidence interval, the lower limit is more than 0, so it is statistically superior. And here the lower limit of confidence interval is more than the delta, that is margin of clinical significance, which is clinically superior. This is the formula for sample size calculation in case of superiority design. So intuitively, the alpha should be one-sided in superiority design because we are assuming that our experimental treatment is more effective. But in superiority clinical trial, generally use two-sided significance to test for superiority in either direction because experimental treatment may be better than standard or standard may be better than experimental. So conventionally, we use two-sided significance. Now sample size estimation for non-inferiority trials. Even if the new treatment has similar effects to the standard treatment, it will be clinically important as long as it offers additional benefits. So even if the new treatment is similar or slightly inferior than standard, the new treatment may be beneficial because of enhanced safety, because of convenience, because of cost effectiveness, or because of other supplementary features. Trials that show that a new treatment is non-inferior to the standard treatment are referred to as non-inferiority clinical trials. Let delta is known as non-inferiority margin. The non-inferiority margin should be smaller than or equal to the observed typical effect size of the active control as compared to placebo treatment. So this difference between the active control and placebo, this delta should be smaller than this difference. So this is known as statistical margin. The non-inferiority margin should be determined as the largest clinically acceptable difference that is not clinically relevant in practice. So this is clinical margin. So the delta, that is the non-inferiority margin, should be either the statistical margin or the clinical margin, depending on which of them is smaller. How to choose the non-inferiority margin? There are three options. One is by using Delphi method, using panel of clinical expert. We can use 95-95 approach by Rothman, and we can use synthesis method. Assay sensitivity is very important in case of non-inferiority clinical trials. Assay sensitivity in non-inferiority trial is the ability of a study to distinguish an effective treatment from an ineffective one. Unlike other trials, non-inferiority trials cannot internally prove this sensitivity as they lack placebo group. Hence, in case of non-inferiority trials, we rely on external evidence and strictly adhere to historical data to ensure the active comparator would have outperformed a placebo. So our assay should be sensitive that this difference is maintained. So this should be taken into consideration. So assay sensitivity, the key aspects include the constancy assumption, the risk to sensitivity, the non-inferiority margin selection, three-arm design. We can include placebo group also. So we have three groups now: experimental treatment, standard treatment, and placebo group. And we can also consider the regulatory view. So this is how we maintain the assay sensitivity in non-inferiority trials. The hypothesis in case of non-inferiority trial is that the difference between the experimental and the standard group is more than minus delta. Since we assume that our experimental group is slightly less effective than the standard group, so this difference is negative. So we are concerned about this negative side. So this is minus delta here. So it is non-inferior if the lower limit of confidence interval is more than minus delta. This should be taken as minus delta here. So in these two scenarios, our drug is non-inferior. If it crosses the minus delta, then it is inferior. So here in these two scenarios, non-inferiority is demonstrated, and in this non-inferiority is not demonstrated. This should be taken as minus delta. This is the formula for sample size calculation in case of non-inferiority design. Here alpha is one-sided. Usually it is taken as 2.5%. Now sample size estimation for equivalence trials. Equivalence means that a new treatment or intervention has a therapeutic effect that is not meaningfully different from an established standard or active control treatment. That is, the difference between the treatments is within predefined clinically insignificant range of minus delta to delta. Two treatments are equivalent to each other if bilateral confidence interval of 95% for the difference of effect between two treatments are within minus delta and delta. So, clinically irrelevant margin, that is the range between minus delta and delta, that is this margin, which is also known as clinically identical difference or clinically equivalence interval. They are decided on the basis of expert consensus, risk-benefit context, statistical criteria. Also, it must be smaller than historical effect size difference between standard treatment and placebo treatment. The new treatment must preserve major fraction of the standard drug's historical benefit. So it should be 80% of this. It should cover actually. The hypothesis in case of equivalence design is that the absolute mean difference is less than delta. So this is the margin of from minus delta to delta. So the 95% confidence interval of the mean difference should be between these two limits to call two drugs as equivalent. So here in these three scenarios, equivalence is demonstrated, and in this scenario, equivalence is not demonstrated because the upper limit of confidence interval is beyond plus delta. This is the sample size formula for equivalence trial design. In case of equivalence design, alpha is one-sided. Equivalence is established by running two separate one-sided tests, one for lower and one for upper limit of confidence interval, and this is known as the TOST procedure. This is the summary of the sample size calculation for clinical trials. Analysis of the clinical trials. In case of superiority trial, we should analyze according to intention to treat. In case of equivalence trial and non-inferiority trial, we should use both intention to treat and as per protocol definition. Then sample size estimation for crossover trials. So in case of crossover trial, we have two sequences, and in my lecture, I is the counter for sequence. So this is first sequence, this is second sequence. J is the counter for subjects. So here J is 1 to n subjects, and here also in this sequence J is 1 to n subjects, and K is the counter for treatment. So K is 1 for the red treatment here, and K is 2 for the green treatment here. And Yijk is the result of this period and this sequence. And similarly for these, I have taken this image and modified from this site. So sample size calculation for crossover trial can be done using this formula, where we calculate the difference between pre and post. So it is a pre and post experimental design scenario, and this is how we calculate the standard deviation of difference between means. In case the data is correlated, we should use this formula, and this formula include correlation coefficient between the two situations. So this is how we calculate the variance of difference, which is required for sample size calculation. Sometimes it is not given in the article, so we can calculate using this formula here. Then sample size estimation for group sequential trials. Sample size calculation for group sequential trials involve determining the maximum sample size using the formula which I have described previously. And then we have intermediate looks where the trial must stop or should stop or might stop early because of crossover, the efficacy boundary or the futility boundary. So there are two boundaries in case of the sequential trials, and these two boundaries are calculated on the basis of alpha spending or beta spending. Alpha spending may be because of the calculations given by O'Brien Fleming or the Pocock type. So this I have taken from this site. This is very good article. This is all for today. Thank you very much.